Born into a humble family, this man was determined to join the demonic cult even before reaching adulthood. By his late teens, he used his natural talent to create a lethal, invisible technique called the butterfly shadow sword, pouring his entire life's passion into it. Once his mastery reached its peak, the blood-red butterfly shadows would emerge. Yet, he was cruelly abandoned by his biological parents as a child. Forced to drift to the CF family in Gansu, he survived as a mere servant. Growing up in that environment, he gradually discovered a secret about himself that no one else knew. He could easily see through the flaws of any top-tier martial arts. So, despite the world's praise for the CF family head, CF Shurda, and his famous white crane sword style, in the man's eyes, he was just an untalented fool. He gained fame through that elegant and fluid swordplay. But watching him practice every day only felt more ridiculous. The white crane style focuses almost entirely on defense, maintaining a posture ready for retreat at any moment. You could say, it completely wastes every opportunity to attack. By the fifth move, one could fake a retreat, and then, the moment the opponent relaxes, strike and drive a wedge, but the master insisted on following righteous rules. But as a servant, fatal opening wide open. Just then, a cold shout rang out. Does a lowly servant like you deserve to watch the master practice? I quickly hid my thoughts and acted impressed, saying the master's skills were profound, and I had been mesmerized. Beside me, Grandpa Huang hurried to pull me away, scolding me that even with talent, a servant should never stare at the master. I sneered inwardly. Such a rigid sword style, yet he is considered a top-tier expert. Moreover, CS Shurda's stupidity didn't stop there. He had a wise, devoted wife, but didn't know how to cherish her. I heard from other servants that the former lady, Mi Shishio, was a wonderful person. Yet, someone so good was actually despised by that idiot. Because Lady Mi always made better decisions than him. All the servants respected her deeply. CS Shurda, blinded by jealousy, treated his devoted wife with cold indifference every day, never looking back until she passed away. Now, he is completely infatuated with Tue Sanmei, letting that woman stir up trouble. None of that was my business. My daily routine, besides running errands for the CF family, was finding food for the homeless orphans in town. With my special ability to sense everything around me, I never failed when stealing buns at the market. I always brought back enough food for the kids without being noticed. But one day, just as I was heading to find the kids with my haul, a large hand grabbed me tightly by the collar. I turned around and saw it was the young master, Xie Fan. With a sharp gaze, he listed my crimes: dumplings from Hong's, buns from Zhang's, and rice cakes from Li's. When did you start learning to steal? I was instantly terrified and broke into a cold sweat. I was always careful. I never sensed anyone following me. How did the eldest son catch me? Red-handed? Before I could explain, I took a heavy kick to the stomach. The pain made me curl up on the ground, unable to speak. The eldest son said coldly, stealing once because you are hungry is understandable, but making it a habit is filthy and shameful. Under the roots of the banyan tree, outside the CF family gate, there is a hidden hole. He would leave money there every day. If I was hungry, I could use that money to buy food while running errands. If there was ever a next time, he definitely would not be so lenient. Then he turned and left, leaving me trembling on the ground. Actually, I wasn't afraid of the beating, but that someone could easily see through my abilities. In front of him, every move I made was completely exposed, like being trapped in the palm of a hand. That spontaneous fear was on a whole different level than physical pain. Young Master Xie Fan could not only spot my theft, but also see through my disguise. He is the most terrifying and respectable person I've met. It infuriated me that the foolish family head didn't appreciate his excellent son. Ever since marrying Tue Sanmei, he has been played like a puppet by this power-hungry woman. She was a cunning woman who only married in for the family's influence. She constantly stirred up trouble, making Xie Shurda target Xie Fan at every turn. At first, seeing the eldest son punished unfairly felt satisfying, but eventually, I started getting annoyed. Xie Fan clearly had the ability to fight back, yet he chose to just take it. Watching him get framed and punished over and over made me furious. With his strength, he could change the situation in one move. Why let them bully him? Even though I'm just a spectator, I couldn't help but look for a chance to intervene. An opportunity soon arrived. I noticed the second daughter, Xie Xiangxi, sneaking into the eldest son's room. I suspected Tue Sanmei was up to some new scheme, even using her own daughter this time. After Xiangxi left, I opened the door and entered the room. Like a ghost. As expected, she had left some clues. Tue Sanmei probably wanted Xiangxi to hide the land deeds in the eldest son's room, then use the excuse of the missing deeds to cause a scene and pin the blame on him. If the deeds were found in his room, he would be charged with the serious crime of stealing family property. Basically, They wanted to frame him for embezzlement to strip him of his inheritance. Although the eldest son was strict with servants and I resented him for exposing my theft at the market. Since then, I've been able to get enough money from that tree hole to feed those children. As the heir of Gansu's top family, Xie Xiufan actually kept his promise to his servant. At first, I thought he was just putting on a show, but rain or shine, he put money in that tree hole every day. An upright and kind person like that shouldn't be set up by a lowlife like Tue Sanmei, but it's also quite laughable. A grand young master of a great house, nearly being taken down by a mere second-born daughter. If Xie Xiufan simply vanished, my own public humiliation wouldn't matter much. But then I thought, if the long-awaited confrontation between Tue Sanmei and the master if the battle between Tue Sanmei and the young master ended before it even started, not only would I lose that little money-making hole, but I'd also never get to see the drama in this house again. A great match needs two equal sides to be fun. I couldn't let the curtain fall before the show even began, so I chose to help Xie Xiufan. It wasn't because he was a good person, but because I really didn't want to lose my only source of entertainment in this family. Early the next morning, furious shouting almost blew the roof off the main courtyard. Master Xie was pointing at a kneeling Xie Xiufan, shaking with rage. Xie Xiufan, you ungrateful brat. The land deeds I just signed mysteriously vanished from my desk drawer. Don't you dare say you had nothing to do with this. Xie Xiufan looked helpless. He truly knew nothing about it. Tue Sanmei immediately jumped in to fuel the fire. She said while it was bad timing, as the lady of the house, she had to speak up. Recently, Xie Xiufan had been hanging around the market, maybe picking up some trashy habits. Xie Xiufan's eyes went cold as he called her out. So, you're calling me a thief now? Just then, Xie Xiangxi suddenly spoke up, claiming she saw something like a scroll in Xie Xiufan's cabinet while helping with the laundry yesterday. Hearing this, Xie Shurda was beyond livid. He ordered the servants to search at once. He knew his eldest son was behind this. Xie Xiufan felt cornered. If he took the fall for this, all his recent efforts would go up in smoke. He only kept enduring to honor his promise to his grandmother. But he never expected Tue Sanmei to use such a dirty trick. Since when did the second young lady become so kind as to help servants with laundry? Xiangxi stammered. Of course I do. Brother, you're always at the market, so you just didn't notice. The servants soon returned with a scroll from his room. Shurda snatched it and looked triumphantly at the kneeling Xie Xiufan. Now that the evidence is clear, what do you have to say? But as he unrolled it, he was completely stunned. This wasn't a land deed. It was just some chicken scratch doodle. Xie Xiufan was also taken aback, but quickly caught on, a slight smile forming on his lips. Ridiculous as it was, he was certain. The drawing was of moves from the white crane style, and from what he could see, only one person in the house could have done this. So he admitted on the spot that he drew it. He hid it in the closet because it was bad and he was embarrassed to let anyone see it. So is there a problem? Tue Sanmei was speechless, her smug expression frozen. Xie Shurda was so embarrassed he could have died, so he just waved Xiufan away to go back to his room. Xiangxi tried to keep arguing, but was silenced by a glare from Tue Sanmei. She shut up reluctantly. After the mess was over, I went to the tree hole for the money as usual. Suddenly, a gentle voice came from behind. This was definitely your doing. I turned to see the eldest daughter, gracefully, worried her sudden appearance had scared me. She heard from her brother that I had been feeding hungry children and wanted to see for herself. My hair stood on end. My senses are usually sharp, yet I hadn't noticed her. Xiuyan's gaze seemed genuinely sincere. She said that while stealing is wrong, if a thief has justice in their heart, they should be proud. Regardless, she wanted to thank me for helping her brother. To her, I was a very smart person. I rubbed my head awkwardly. The young master definitely didn't think I was smart. He probably thought I was just sneaky. In contrast, the young lady always praised others and never acted arrogant, always observing before taking action. But even with Tue Sanmei making such a mess, did they really choose to endure just to save the family's reputation? Was this dead-end honor really that important? I, on the other hand, longed for a life of freedom, even as a lowly servant. At dawn, the Xia estate was filled with a solemn sadness. Xie Xiufan stumbled into his grandmother's room, only to see her familiar form, lying still on the bed. He shook as he took his grandmother's hand, tears falling uncontrollably. He remembered her final warning. Family infighting only leads to useless sacrifice. As the eldest son, he had to protect the family's name at all costs. A day later, the funeral was held in deep gloom. I hid in the crowd, watching the siblings try to hold back their grief. Even Grandpa Huang couldn't help but sob quietly. With the old lady gone, Tue Sanmei would surely take over. But strangely, she didn't make a move. On Xie Xiaofan right away, just lurked like a viper, waiting for the perfect moment. Another month passed. Following his grandmother's death, Xie Xiaofan became withdrawn and often lost in thought. I could roughly guess what he was thinking. His grandmother's last wish was holding him back from taking a stand, as it would cost the family's reputation. But Tue Sanmei's constant pressure was becoming unbearable. Late that night, I saw him by the money tree as expected. He dropped one last bag of coins inside. This is probably the last time. Then he turned toward the city gate. I suddenly spoke up, leaving without saying goodbye, and making such a big move without taking any travel money. I handed him the land deed I had stolen and hidden. He stopped and stared at me. I didn't hold back and asked him directly. You had so many chances to stand up to Tue Sanmei, even crush her easily, so why choose to leave alone? And all those skills you're hiding, why never use them? He replied calmly that he was honoring his grandmother's wish. He didn't want the family killing each other. Years ago, a similar internal conflict had nearly destroyed the Xie family. He didn't want that tragedy to repeat in this family. I argued back, but the old lady is gone, and right now, Tue Sanmei has the Xie family in a death grip. Xiaofan's eyes instantly sharpened. He swore he'd be back. Right now, the Xie family is surrounded by Tue Sanmei's influence. He had to go out and get stronger to bleach this place of those tumors. I couldn't help but chuckle. So the young master knows that staying here means you'll never improve. I also think the Xie family's orthodox sword style is too rigid. In my opinion, righteous martial artists care too much about empty reputation. The fifth move of the white crane style could be both offense and defense. But today it's bogged down by looking elegant, leaving massive openings. You must be trying to go beyond the Xie family's limits and see what real power looks like in the outside world. Xiaofan reached out for the land deed. He admitted my insight into martial arts was indeed extraordinary. But was I insulting the Xie family right to his face? I pulled a smirk. Of course not. After all, I grew up on the Xie family's dime. I just always felt that demonic power is stronger than the righteous path. Xiaofan was silent for a moment before saying, from now on, whether I walk the path of light or darkness, I must stay true to my heart. If he finds out I've done bad things, he'll come back anytime to punish me. Xiaofan paused, and then his eyes showed a hint of mischief. One last favor before he goes. If Xiaoyan gets into trouble, please give her a hand. Xiaoyan is a smart kid, but just in case, I should look out for her more. That made me blush instantly. When did I ever act like I cared that much about Lady Xiaoyan? Xiaofan kept a smile on his face. He just mentioned looking out for her. So why was I getting so worked up? Do I really care about Xiaoyan that much? He handed the land deed back to me. Keep this for a rainy day. He hoped my sneaky nature would make the world more interesting. Watching his silhouette disappear into the night, I had mixed feelings. I didn't think the young master would actually just leave like that. Even when spring came the next year, it still felt like the last conversation between two brothers. But once I grew up, my work involved more than just simple errands. Thanks to that, I could move around the estate and carefully observe some hidden secrets. Lady Xiaoyan's life was all right for now, since she had no claim to the inheritance. She didn't clash with Tue Sanmei too often. The young master probably realized this before deciding to head out alone. But he really is a clever one. Just because of that one request, I'd have to stay in this house for a long time. One day, while holding some freshly picked herbs, my heart skipped a beat. Because right now, the servants were all talking about the Yellow family visiting the Xie family, and apparently they might even stay here for a while. This shouldn't have been a big deal. As the top family in Gansu, the Xie family had to play the good host to save face. Everything seemed normal on the surface, but the weird part was the Yellow family was just an obscure, small family in Gansu. There was no way they should get such a grand welcome. There was definitely some scheme going on. Sure enough, a second later, I saw through a door crack Tue Sanmei holding a jewelry box and a letter, approaching Lady Xiaoyan with a fake smile. She said the Yellow family specifically prepared these jewels. Young Master Yellow was smitten with Xiaoyan and had put a lot of effort into this marriage proposal. As the top house, the Xie family has a duty to help out smaller families. The master is currently swamped with major affairs, and the eldest son left the family without a word. As the eldest daughter, it's time to do something big for the family. From that day on, I ran to the backyard every day, swinging a wooden stick and practicing the Xie family's white crane style like crazy. I had seen its flaws long ago. In just a few days, I had modified it into a style that combined offense and defense. The moment Xiaofan left, Tue Sanmei couldn't wait to use the young lady as a pawn in her power grab. What a venomous woman. Since the young master entrusted Lady Shuyan to me before he left, I won't let her life be manipulated by anyone. As I was refining my moves, a piercing, mocking voice rang out. Does a lowly slave deserve to steal our family's sword techniques? I turned and saw Tue Sanmei's son, Xie Xiangyi, and daughter, Xie Xiangxi. Both of them had eyes full of malice and contempt. Before I could react, Xie Xiangyi slammed a stick hard against my back. I heard you watch the master practice every day. Since you're so eager to learn, why not? Let me teach you how to use a sword personally. As he said that, Xie Xiangyi gripped the stick and jabbed it straight at my chest. I instinctively dodged to the side, and the stick grazed my shoulder, missing its mark. Seeing this, Xie Xiangxi rushed up and grabbed my wrist tightly. Brother, beat this guy to death. Let's see if he ever dares to be so arrogant again. Xie Xiangyi was beyond pissed and slammed a heavy fist into my gut. I immediately spat out bitter fluid and curled up on the ground. Xiangyi's fist rained down on me like a storm. Every punch brought bone-chilling pain, but I gritted my teeth and didn't make a sound. In that moment, I thought of young Master Xie Xiufan. Though he was cold, he never bullied the weak. Even when he fought, it was always a fair duel. But a lowly person like me can't even protect myself, yet I dream of protecting Lady Shuyan. If the young master saw me in this pathetic state, would he despise me from the bottom of his heart? After all, a nobody who gets beaten half to death just for swinging a stick can't really do anything. Looking back, how ridiculous was it that I mocked the righteous path in front of the young master? But then I thought, getting beaten like this by someone who hasn't even reached 10% of the young master's power. A surge of murderous intent suddenly boiled up from my soul. I snapped my head up, eyes locked, dead on them. Tue Sanmei was scheming against Lady Shuyan, and these two jerks were abusing their power, just as my killing intent peaked, and I was ready to risk it all. Suddenly, a figure rushed in and shouted, "Stop it, all of you!" As she got closer, I saw it was Lady Shuyan. She stood in front of me, glaring coldly at Xie Xiangyi. At that moment, I felt so bitter. I was supposed to be the one protecting her, but here she was, protecting me instead. I swore to myself that next time, I would be strong enough. The next thing I knew, a shout woke me up. I sat up abruptly and saw Grandpa Huang looking at me with a smirk. My wounds had been carefully bandaged, and the pain had faded quite a bit. It hit me instantly. Lady Shuyan must have saved me yesterday. Afraid I couldn't handle the pain of treatment, she quietly brought me to Grandpa Huang. He teased, "Look at that face. Are you upset because you can't stand the thought of the young lady getting married? But you didn't have to risk your life against the second young master for it." I scrambled to explain, but winced as my wounds flared up. Then I turned it back on him. "Aren't you worried about the young master too, Grandpa Huang? I think you've always held the late lady close to your heart. I was supposed to stay in Uncle Zongyun's room, but Lady Shuyan brought me directly here. That means she sees you as a trustworthy person, and that's probably because you, Grandpa Huang, have been a loyal follower of the late lady for a very long time. I still remember how you sobbed at her funeral. Your feelings for her must be a lot like my desire to protect Lady Shuyan." Seeing Grandpa Huang look cornered, I stopped hiding things and told him everything that had been happening in the Xia house. Tue Sanmei's plot to frame the heir, Xiangyi, and his sister's brutal treatment of the servants, and the scheme to marry the young lady off to the Yelu family. After hearing this, his face went dark. "That woman is pure evil. And why are you just telling me this now?" As he spoke, Grandpa Huang slowly sat in a meditation pose. My ribs were cracked, and if the young lady hadn't helped clear my pressure points, I'd still be in agony. He told me he would teach me a breathing and energy circulation method to help me recover quickly. I was shocked. "Wait, so you know martial arts too, Grandpa?" He didn't answer, just closed his eyes to focus. "We'll talk about that another time. For now, I just had to follow his lead. Breathe in slowly, and then breathe out." I mirrored him, adjusting my breath, and felt a surge of fresh energy flow through me. After a few rounds, the pain in my wounds began to slowly fade away. When we finished, Grandpa Huang pulled a yellowed, old book from the cabinet. He said it was a gift from an extraordinary person he met when he was young. Since I was gifted, maybe I could understand it. I took it with curiosity, but the first sentence left me confused. "The energy of heaven and earth gives birth to all things. If man aligns with it, he becomes one with the world. Aren't we born from our parents? How can we be born from heaven and earth?" I flipped through it until born weak who seek power. Purity is not required. This breathing method is the foundation. Only through raw emotion can one reach the peak. I finally understood the author's mindset. When they wrote this, it was precisely because they were weak that they were willing to give everything to become powerful. Holding the ancient book, I immersed myself in that meditative state again. Every breath felt like sweet energy nourishing my damaged meridians. Before I knew it, sweat was pouring off me, and my body felt heavier and heavier. With a thud, I collapsed. I didn't expect simple breathing to be so exhausting. But miraculously, once I caught my breath, the pain was completely gone. My hands felt filled with a power I'd never known. This book is incredible. Just you wait. I'm going to master this. Suddenly, I noticed a beautiful figure standing by the bed. Xie Xiuyan smiled at me gently. She was worried about my recovery and wanted to check in. She also wanted to apologize for her siblings. Seeing that I was okay, she looked relieved. Watching her leave, I made a vow to myself. I'd risk my life to protect her and never make her worry about me again. I went back to the book, completely lost in the breathing until Grandpa Huang's voice broke the silence. He asked why I wasn't asleep since it was so late. I looked out at the pitch-black sky. Was it night already? I thought. I only practiced for an hour. Grandpa Huang shook his head, probably thinking I'd lost my mind. By now, I've been in seclusion for almost an entire day. When I stood up, I was shocked to find the pain in my ribs was gone. I was full of endless energy. Seeing this, Grandpa Huang's expression turned serious. He told me to sit down immediately because he had something to tell me. Then, he slowly began to reveal a story. Buried by time. Before I was born, two families in Hunan fought and nail for ultimate power. One was the Meteor Sword clan founded by Tan Muzhong, while the Coney Pavilion consisted of pirates. The obscure White Dragon Castle was also there. When the two sects finally clashed, everyone thought the Meteor Sword clan would take the win. Instead, they were no match for White Dragon Castle. What was even weirder was that after that battle, the two families seemed to absorb each other and vanished from the world. Until recently, rumors say the descendants of White Dragon Castle have resurfaced. Based on Grandpa Huang's intel, those descendants are likely the Yelu family who are about to visit. That means Tue Sanmei's maternal family might have a hidden connection with the Yelis. Grandpa Huang had investigated before, but couldn't find any info on Miss Xiuyan's future groom. After explaining, Grandpa Huang pulled a package from the cabinet. These were clothes the old mistress made for him when she was young, the only keepsake she left him. Because he treasured them so much, he never wore them once. Now he asked me to help keep them safe because starting today, he is leaving the manor to investigate the conspiracy behind Miss Xiuyan's marriage. At dawn the next day, Grandpa Huang quietly left. Watching him go, I felt completely uneasy. To him, the old mistress was someone truly special. Now, I regret it a bit. Maybe I shouldn't have pushed him to act. But then again, my own situation was just as bad. Since Miss Xiuyan saved me, my obsession with getting stronger has only deepened. Still, I couldn't figure out why. Why get stronger? To seek revenge for a greater cause like the eldest young master? Or to protect those I care about like Grandpa Huang? Thinking about it now, it's probably neither. I mostly just want to live this life with no regrets. I've been an orphan for as long as I can remember. My only wish in this life is to burn brightly just once, like a firework. Or perhaps, to become a hero who can overcome anything. If I want to burn like a spark, I'm better suited for the unorthodox or demonic sects rather than the rigid righteous ones. Right now, I can't protect Miss Xiuyan at all, but someone as brilliant as her can surely break through any hardship. Just as they stepped onto their own paths, I want to find the path that fits me. So, Grandpa Huang, it's not that I don't understand you, but seeing you leave the house felt like a reminder that I'd spend my life serving the mistress just like you. I feel Grandpa Huang's choice is different from what I long for. Over 2 weeks passed quickly. Uncle Zongyun suddenly brought news. Grandpa Huang had left instructions. If he didn't send word within 2 weeks, I was to take the clothes he had entrusted to me. This sent a shock through my body. Something must have happened to him. Tue Sanmei likely found out he was investigating the Yelis and took him out. The Xian siblings have been wandering the estate lately, clearly, using the wedding as an excuse to wipe out the eldest master's people. And since I was often with Grandpa Huang, it's only a matter of time before Tue Sanmei finds me. With trembling hands, I open the package and put on the clothes. Grandpa Huang, I will avenge you. As for the eldest master, you asked me to look after Miss Xiuyan when it counts. That time is now. However, the situation is dire. I might only be able to help this once, but I promise I will keep her safe. Before leaving, I sent Miss Xiuyan a package. Inside were the land deeds used to frame the eldest master and a diary. I'm so sorry, Miss Xiuyan. By the time you see this diary, I'll already be on my way out of the manor. Miss, your fiancé Master Yelu is a dangerous man. Though the eldest master and Grandpa Huang are gone, I trust you know exactly what needs to be done. Please leave the Xia house and hide somewhere else for now. By now, I've reached the desolate mountains. After everything, I've repaid the Xia family for raising me. There's nothing left for me. In Gansu, my plan is simple. Stay in these mountains and train hard for 2.5 years. I estimate it will take at least that long to master this secret manual. Once I've gained peerless strength, I'll find Miss Xiuyan. No matter the cost, I will find those who preyed on the Xie family. After all that is done, I suppose the day will come for a final showdown with the eldest master. I then carved a wooden sword to celebrate my freedom. I swore to myself, in 2 years, the entire martial arts world will know my name. Time flew by. 2.5 years passed in a flash. The once glorious CF family had lost its luster. Their reputation as Gansu's top family had hit rock bottom. Now, everyone had to answer to the 2A family. The old mistress's sudden death, the departure of the eldest master and miss, and 2A Sanmei's servants acting like they owned the place. The family just had to take it, silently hoping the eldest master would return like a hero, to rebuild the Xia legacy. Meanwhile, at the foot of Heavenly Demon City, an extraordinary young man gazed up. This city is the sacred ground of the demonic cult. Those who practice the demonic arts easily fall prey to evil thoughts or internal collapse. Consequently, most who walk this path end up as enemies of the world. They either destroy themselves or are taken down by the righteous. But some hold on to their integrity through sheer will, becoming legendary grandmasters. Currently, the top-ranked fighter among the 10 greats is the demonic saint, followed by the righteous demon. Besides them, the other 8 are from righteous sections. Yet for years, only 2 could secure the top 2 spots. This proves that while some warriors are masters of the demonic arts, their character remains upright and honorable. The second-ranked, righteous demon is actually the lord of Heavenly Demon City. In his youth, he was a scholar who never intended to practice martial arts. However, if he had hidden away his extraordinary talent and spent his life just reading and playing chess, it would have been a waste. So, after his master begged him for days, ManhWa was finally convinced. Yet, perhaps, it is something in their blood, but ManhWa's descendants almost all preferred academics over fighting. That was until his granddaughter, Milan, grew up. She was a child, hungry for martial arts. But because he adored her so much, ManhWa didn't want her entering that world. So when Xie Xiufan showed up to challenge him, ManhWa didn't want to bother with such a young warrior. But then he heard Xie Xiufan say, with an air of absolute righteousness, that he didn't expect to duel the city lord, but only hoped for some guidance at Heavenly Demon City. ManhWa suddenly took an interest in the kid. This boy was intentionally provocative, yet seemed very humble. Moreover, he gave off a vibe of being both bold and straightforward. So, he agreed to Xie Xiufan's request to spar. However, there was one condition. He had to complete a game of chess first. In Heavenly Demon City, it's a rule that all challengers must pass a bet on a game. This was a preliminary test ManhWa came up with because there were too many challengers. The game looked like simple gambling on the surface, but it was actually psychological warfare. To master an opponent's mind and attack their weaknesses, one must win the battle of wits. One wrong move, and it could be game over. Likewise, if you're not sharp, the chances of losing in physical combat are very high. So far, the only person to ever beat ManhWa was Shinji Xiao. But even that guy only won by half a move. The board was set, pieces moved, and they played. Late into the night, Milan arrived and couldn't help but clench her fists. This young man was truly impressive. Get tired over time and make mistakes, but this young man was different. A person's character and temperament are easily revealed on a chessboard. This guy sometimes used clever, fluid tactics like water, and other times switched to a sharp, solid mindset like a mountain. To him, chess was like a wolf guarding its territory, never letting the enemy cross the line. Meanwhile, ManhWa saw right through Xie Xiufan's intentions. A wild beast was hidden in this boy's heart. Though it was still just a cub, with a little polishing, he would surely become someone important. And judging by the internal energy he radiated, he was practicing the most pure righteous techniques. He was clearly a direct descendant of a prestigious family. This made ManhWa even more curious. With talent like yours, you could easily join a top righteous sect where your skills would improve even faster. Why are you so set on challenging the fundamentally different Heavenly Demon City? Xie Xiufan's eyes showed a flicker of determination. Because there are things I must do. There's a group of people with no leader waiting for me to return. I failed to save someone important from the abyss, and there's a long-awaited, formidable opponent waiting for a final showdown. I once swore to get strong fast, which is why I came here. These words brought a look of satisfaction to ManhWa's eyes. It seems you don't have any hesitation about the path you've chosen. He then took advantage of Xie Xiufan's distraction to make the winning move. Xie Xiufan looked at the board and smiled helplessly. You're too good, senior. I lost. He thought he had backed ManhWa into a corner, but somehow he was the one silently trapped. Then he shifted his tone and took a humble stance. The reason I'm so desperate to spar with the city lord isn't because I think I can win. It's because you've always been known as a mentor to the talented. If I can spar with you even just once, I believe I can gain insights I've never experienced before. ManhWa truly felt that while Xie Xiufan was talented, He was a humble junior. He simply couldn't bring himself to reject such a person. So he agreed to the challenge, but with one extra condition. You can spar with my granddaughter, Gomilan. She has learned a lot of my techniques in secret. Gomilan was stunned when she heard this. Grandpa, I just started training. Are you really okay with me sparring with this gentleman? Go gave an awkward laugh. Don't worry, he's about your age. And if you agree to this request, I will personally teach you martial arts every single day starting next week. A few days later, a massive crowd gathered at the Heavenly Demon City arena. So is that the kid? He looks like a simple, honest warrior, but he's pretty arrogant to think he can challenge the city lord. Xie Xiaofan slowly walked through the crowd, noticing that many spectators were quite powerful. Heavenly Demon City looked peaceful, but undercurrents were swirling. If Gowenha ever lost control, the city could erupt into chaos at any moment. This made him realize just how incredible Gowenha really was. His opponent was his granddaughter, so he couldn't afford to relax. At the same time, Lady Heavenly Demon was scolding. The righteous demon. Don't think I don't know what you're doing. You're letting her spar, just so he'll stay in Heavenly Demon City to play more chess with you. That's why you've been smiling like an idiot lately. Before the match, Gomilan bowed according to tradition. Please guide me. I'm younger and started training late. So could you let me have the first move? Xie Xiaofan bowed back. In that case, please. Go ahead, Miss Go. Before he even finished, her sword was out of its scabbard. In the blink of an eye, the cold steel was inches from his face. Their eyes met for a split second. Xie Xiaofan realized her strike was clean and decisive. She was no spoiled princess. Before he could fully react, she had already grabbed his shoulder, spun 360 degrees, and leaped behind him. At the same time, her arm, still gripping the sword hilt, thrust forward with a whistling sound. Xie Xiaofan scrambled to block, their blades clashing with a sharp ring. Xie Xiaofan then used a burst of strength to parry her blade and turned into a blur of light to counterattack. Gomilan swayed, relying on Xie Xiaofan's eyes lit up as she skillfully dodged his blade. Miss Gu truly is the descendant of the righteous demon. Her reflexes are honestly incredible. Meanwhile, Gomilan took another look at him. He was flexible, quick, and could perfectly time his counters based on the shifting situation. No wonder Grandpa saw something in him. Gomilan then focused her internal energy into her blade, radiating an overwhelming pressure. Your skills are legit, Master Xie. It's been a while since I've faced such an exciting opponent. But let's see if you can block this snowy cloud sword style. Xie Xiaofan braced himself immediately. Gomilan leaped high into the air, her energy surging wildly to create intense pressure. As she gripped her hilt, countless sword shadows appeared midair. This was the snowy cloud style created by ManhWa. With a light swing, waves of spiritual energy crashed down. Xie Xiaofan didn't hesitate and swung his sword to defend. Up in the stands, Gowenha watched closely, feeling nothing but pride. For both of them, Milan had improved so much. But even though her strike was perfect and almost at the boy's throat, he stayed calm. He was coolly analyzing every single detail of her movement. His poise under pressure and that sharp gaze that saw through illusions showed he had been through hell and back in real combat. To everyone's absolute shock, Xie Xiaofan suddenly took the starting stance of the snowy cloud style. His energy flared, giving off the exact same aura as Milan. Milan couldn't believe her eyes. Xie Xiaofan lunged forward like a bolt of lightning. Luckily, she was ready and barely managed to block the thunderous strike. Inside, she was floored. He had learned the complex snowy cloud style just by watching it. Your talent is honestly terrifying, Master Xie. But thanks for the demo. Now I see an opening to strike back. Milan smirked. She leaped into the air again, her blade glowing gold and surrounded by bolts of electricity. This time, she unleashed the Phantom 7-star style. It felt like a ghost had descended, the air humming with the vibration of her energy. A second later, she vanished and reappeared at his side, her sword aiming for his vitals. Xie Xiaofan saw it was just a feint and immediately adjusted his defense. Milan poured everything into her strike, swinging down hard. Xie Xiaofan gritted his teeth and met her blow. The two massive forces collided violently. After the deafening explosion, everyone waited for the dust to settle. What they saw left them speechless. Both their blades were held against each other's throats. It was a draw. They both sheathed their swords and bowed to him sincerely, saying his strength was truly impressive. Xie Xiaofan remained calm. I've learned a lot from you today, Miss Go. I finally understand what they say about the world being full of talent. ManhWa then spoke up. It's been a long time since I've seen such a brilliant match. But you shouldn't just thank Mylan. You should probably thank the creators of the Snowy Cloud. And Phantom 7 Star Styles too. The two old masters in the crowd were furious. They knew exactly what the righteous demon meant. He was saying that even though Xieshofan only used their starting moves, he had actually mastered the inner workings of both styles. These were their life's work. How could a kid learn them just by watching a few times? It was ridiculous. Mylan was skeptical too. You're talented, but mastering those moves takes years. It's impossible. ManhWa has stuck to his guns. If he hadn't memorized the moves, he couldn't have copied them so perfectly. Is it true or not? Silence fell. After a moment, Xieshofan nodded. He gripped his sword, and golden lightning surrounded the blade. He replicated every move of the Phantom 7 Star style perfectly. Not only that, his movements were fluid and elegant, capturing the very essence of the technique. When he finished, there was dead silence. Then the crowd exploded. He's a monster. He actually memorized a whole style mid-fight. Xieshofan's voice was flat. The style was brilliant, so I subconsciously remembered the flow of the blade. If that counts as stealing, I won't use it again. I only follow the righteous path. I won't associate with the demonic. ManhWa suddenly slammed the table, acting enraged. How dare you? You steal our techniques and still talk back? What's wrong with having a demonic master? Our skills can help you reach the top and achieve your dreams, yet you're so stubborn. In reality, he was telepathically telling Xieshofan to shut up and listen. He had waited forever for a worthy successor. Xieshofan caught on immediately. I told you, I will never have a demonic master. ManhWa's face reddened with anger. You're such a stubborn brat. Even in this position, you still act so high and mighty. What's so bad about us? Since I joined the demonic path, I've lived with a clear conscience, even as the world's second best. The ones making the world bleed aren't us. It's the people who insist on dividing everything into black and white. He gathered a massive amount of energy in his hand. In chess, do you think one color can win the game? Fools who want to paint the world in one color should be wiped out. He then slammed a palm strike into Xieshofan's chest, sending him flying dozens of meters like a broken kite. Right here, he thinks. His little bit of talent gives him the right to look down on everyone. Throw this disrespectful brat onto Mount Sonyen. If anyone dares to help him in secret, I won't be merciful. Several henchmen followed orders and dumped Xieshofan at the foot of the mountain. Once they were gone, Xieshofan slowly opened his eyes. He touched his chest and pulled out a secret manual. It was the complete Phantom 7 Star style. The protector had slipped it to him during the chaos. Xieshofan sighed. I should probably call you master. But since Senior Gu already taught me the Shura illusion, I guess you'll just have to be my second master. Scene change. I'm in the deep mountains, swinging my wooden sword rapidly. One tricky problem still bugs me. Why does the sword feel so unstable and shaky during the follow-through? I'm certain that after all this practice, my skills have already surpassed that idiot Xieshur. But still, I only know the white crane sword style. Suddenly, I noticed the white fox I met before was staring at me. What's he looking at? Do humans really look that weird? A mere beast dares to glare at me. Does it think it's the eldest young master or something? Unexpectedly, after staring me down, the fox suddenly charged. It kicked off my back and snatched the bag containing my beef jerky. I didn't chase it immediately. Instead, I was lost in thought. In that split second, I had a breakthrough with the white crane style. The fox has short legs, yet runs incredibly fast. It must be using the power of its toes. So, the strike shouldn't come just from the palm, but from all the force concentrated at the fingertips. I tried, focusing my power there, and gave the sword a light flick. Not only did it move exactly where I wanted, but its power was several times stronger than before. I was thrilled. Who knew this little guy would be a better teacher than the head of the Gansu family? With this new insight, I headed back to my cave. By now, I've gotten used to combining breathing techniques with internal energy, but I know I still lack practical moves. However, with this new understanding of swordplay, maybe I can try to develop it further by mimicking animals like the white fox. Snakes are a bit hard to copy without limbs, and their movements are too repetitive. Rabbits, on the other hand, are a bit too chaotic. Looking around, none of the animals nearby seemed right for sword training. Just then, a butterfly flew into the cave. I instinctively swung my sword to shoo it away, but it dodged with an elegant arc. I swung again, but it evaded me effortlessly. It even had the nerve to land on my wooden sword before lazily flying away. I stared at its flight path, stunned. Can swordplay really be practiced like this? I immediately began chasing its path with my sword, sometimes attacking like a storm, sometimes dodging light as a wing. Changing speed and direction, I poured my soul into every move. When my intent reached its peak, shadows of blood red butterflies seemed to dance. A wooden sword couldn't fully express this style I created. I needed to stop focusing on the sword itself and focus on mimicking the butterfly with the tip. As I went through sword after wooden sword, my butterfly shadow style grew more refined. I packed my bags. It was time to find a flexible sword that suited me. It's been 3 years since I left the Xie family. I wonder how Miss Xiaoyan is doing. And Grandpa Huang's death, the vengeance is still waiting for me. Scene change. Jincheng Escort Agency. This is one of the top 10 escort agencies in Henan. No matter the cargo, Jincheng Escort guarantees delivery with its reputation. Their lifeblood is trust and public opinion. But one day, something happened that should never have happened. The client's goods were secretly swapped right under their noses. The cargo was swapped, and beyond that, the convoys were often mysteriously attacked mid-journey. To restore their reputation, the Grand Master of Jincheng Escort Agency chose to lead a convoy himself. As a result, he was ambushed by unknown forces and left critically injured and bedridden. From that point on, Jincheng Escort, once one of Henan's top 10 agencies, began its decline in the martial arts world. Word is that a new power called the Azure Dragon Agency has been rapidly seizing Jincheng's territory, leaving the current leader, Song Liju, overwhelmed with worry. Now, Jincheng Escort is barely hanging on by a thread. They've even had to mortgage the agency's property. However, there is still hope if she can find escort guards willing to ride with her to reclaim the agency's lost honor. The deputy leader, Song Lishuan, brought back 2 applicants, a burly, robust man and a mysterious-looking young man. Song Liju eyed them both carefully, her face full of doubt because neither looked like a typical guard. The burly man spoke first. I understand Jincheng's current predicament. What exactly are we transporting this time? Song Liju hesitated for a moment before telling the truth. This time, it's an empty carriage run. The goal is to restore our name and expose Azure Dragon's conspiracy. The young man suddenly cut in. So you think that this is enough to rejoin the top 10 agencies? If you, the Grandmaster, really think that way, then I don't know whether to call you foolish or just incredibly naive. Having said that, the young man turned to leave, leaving Song Liju fuming. We appreciate you applying for the job, but you have no right to come here and boss us around. Ignoring her, I walked straight into the courtyard. Those 8 guys hiding in the trees. Better get the heck down here right now. At the same time, the burly man inside sensed danger. For safety, the Grandmaster should move her family to the inner courtyard. But when they reached the outer yard, they saw 8 bodies already laid out neatly on the ground. I gave a frustrated little laugh because that burly guy had actually tried to secretly interfere just now. Then I suggested burying these guys in the inner courtyard temporarily so the enemy couldn't find the bodies. Song Liju's gaze froze for a second. She realized these 2 were top-tier martial arts experts, even if she didn't understand why people like them would apply to be lowly escort guards. She knew that if she wanted to rebuild Jincheng Escort, she couldn't let talent like this walk away. Back in the inner court, the burly man finally revealed his identity. He was exactly who the Song siblings suspected. The Ghost Blade, Yin Zhoubi, the legendary master who defeated the twin ghosts of Bailing in a single day. As for me, Yin Zhoubi called me the Butterfly Youth. Since he was naturally cautious and we hadn't known each other long, he didn't really know much about me. He met me about 2.5 months ago. At the time, he had heard there was information he wanted at a gambling den. Unexpectedly, he ended up losing everything. There was a very crafty guy there, barely over 20 years old, who kept winning money in that illegal den. He had a sword tucked into his belt and looked like a martial artist. Yin planned to see if I had the info he was looking for. But before he could even make a move, the young warriors saw right through him. They settled on a duel as a bet. The stakes were, if he won, he'd get all the money and all the intelligence I possessed. Conversely, if he lost, he had to follow me and help me with a few things. During the fight, he could clearly feel that the young man before him was likely his equal. The only masters that skilled at such a young age were the 2 people he had been desperately searching for. Initially, he was quite confident he'd win the bet. But when I unleashed a bizarre and unusual sword style, even after he used 80% of his power to block it, he was still knocked down. He was baffled by the strange technique, and beyond that, my internal power didn't seem like something someone my age could have developed. So he asked me directly who my master was. He still remembers how blunt my answer was. I told him I practiced something called the Tying Scripture, and that I found it in an old manuscript. I had no sect and no so-called master. I'd been studying and training alone since I was a kid, creating a cultivation method that suited me. Even though Yin Zhoubi had been in the martial world for years and seen countless secret techniques, he had never heard of this one. Since then, both of them had their own matters to investigate, and the troubled Jincheng Escort became their primary target. After hearing this, the Song siblings were stunned. The fact that this young man handled those assassins almost single-handedly was already shocking enough, but to find out he had defeated the famous Ghost Blade? Even if it sounds hard to believe, the sword style I created is truly magnificent and elegant. Just then, I reappeared. Sounds like you guys are talking about me. Yanjobi quickly changed the subject. It's rare to have such good food, so of course we should chat. Song Liju spoke up at the right time. Thank you both for saving us. I don't know what your goal is here, but I must clarify that the point of this empty carriage run is to restore Jingqing's reputation. As the Grandmaster, I am willing to hand over our property to you if you promise to protect my family during the transport, even if I die in an attack during this run. Please do your best to protect my brother. Her words made my heart sink. Now I finally understand why Jingqing Escort has been struggling just to survive. But this approach is just a waste of time. I shook my head. Grandmaster Song, don't you understand the situation? Those properties you mentioned are secondary. Protecting lives is a losing business. So before we strike a deal, I will first help you become a powerful escort agency once again. Then, you'll be able to pay me a much better rate. Because the better your reputation, the more I stand to gain. With that, I pulled a banknote from my robe. An empty carriage run might only take a few months if things go well. But fully rebuilding Jingqing Escort will take years. The cargo was swapped, and beyond that, the convoys were often mysteriously attacked mid-journey. To restore their reputation, the Grandmaster of Jingqing Escort Agency chose to lead a convoy himself. As a result, he was ambushed by unknown forces and left critically injured and bedridden. From that point on, Jingqing Escort, once one of Hunan's top 10 agencies, began its decline in the martial arts world. Word is that a new power called the Azure Dragon Agency has been rapidly seizing Jingqing's territory, leaving the current leader, Song Liju, overwhelmed with worry. Now, Jingqing Escort is barely hanging on by a thread. They've even had to mortgage the agency's property. However, there is still hope if she can find escort guards willing to ride with her to reclaim the agency's lost honor. The deputy leader, Song Lishuan, brought back 2 applicants, a burly, robust man and a mysterious-looking young man. Song Liju eyed them both carefully, her face full of doubt because neither looked like a typical guard. The burly man spoke first. I understand Jingqing's current predicament. What exactly are we transporting this time? Song Liju hesitated for a moment before telling the truth. This time, it's an empty carriage run. The goal is to restore our name and expose Azure Dragon's conspiracy. The young man suddenly cut in. So you think that this is enough to rejoin the top 10 agencies? If you, the Grandmaster, really think that way, then I don't know whether to call you foolish or just incredibly naive. Having said that, the young man turned to leave, leaving Song Liju fuming. We appreciate you applying for the job, but you have no right to come here and boss us around. Ignoring her, I walked straight into the courtyard. Those 8 guys hiding in the trees better get the heck down here right now. At the same time, the burly man inside sensed danger. For safety, the Grandmaster should move her family to the inner courtyard. But when they reached the outer yard, they saw 8 bodies already laid out neatly on the ground. I gave a frustrated little laugh because that burly guy had actually tried to secretly interfere just now. Then I suggested burying these guys in the inner courtyard temporarily so the enemy couldn't find the bodies. Song Liju's gaze froze for a second. She realized these 2 were top-tier martial arts experts. Even if she didn't understand why people like them would apply to be lowly escort guards, she knew that if she wanted to rebuild Jingqing Escort, she couldn't let talent like this walk away. Back in the inner court, the burly man finally revealed his identity. He was exactly who the Song siblings suspected. The Ghost Blade, Yanjobi, the legendary master who defeated the twin ghosts of Bailing in a single day. As for me, Yanjobi called me the Butterfly Youth. Since he was naturally cautious and we hadn't known each other long, he didn't really know much about me. He met me about 2.5 months ago. At the time, he had heard there was information he wanted at a gambling den. Unexpectedly, he ended up losing everything. There was a very crafty guy there, barely over 20 years old, who kept winning money in that illegal den. He had a sword tucked into his belt and looked like a martial artist. Yin planned to see if I had the info he was looking for. But before he could even make a move, the young warrior saw right through him. They settled on a duel as a bet. The stakes were, if he won, he'd get all the money and all the intelligence I possessed. Conversely, if he lost, he had to follow me and help me with a few things. During the fight, he could clearly feel that the young man before him was likely his equal. The only masters that skilled at such a young age were the 2 people he had been desperately searching for. Initially, he was quite confident he'd win the bet. But when I unleashed a bizarre and unusual sword style, even after he used 80% of his power to block it, he was still knocked down. He was baffled by the strange technique, and beyond that, my internal power didn't seem like something someone my age could have developed. So he asked me directly who my master was. He still remembers how blunt my answer was. I told him I practiced something called the Tying Scripture and that I found it in an old manuscript. I had no sect and no so-called master. I'd been studying and training alone since I was a kid, creating a cultivation method that suited me. Even though Yanjobi had been in the martial world for years and seen countless secret techniques, he had never heard of this one. Since then, both of them had their own matters to investigate, and the troubled Jingqing escort became their primary target. After hearing this, the Song siblings were stunned. The fact that this young man handled those assassins almost single-handedly was already shocking enough, but to find out he had defeated the famous Ghost Blade? Even if it sounds hard to believe, the sword style I created is truly magnificent and elegant. Just then, I reappeared. Sounds like you guys are talking about me. Yanjobi quickly changed the subject. It's rare to have such good food, so of course we should chat. Song Liju spoke up at the right time. Thank you both for saving us. I don't know what your goal is here, but I must clarify that the point of this empty carriage run is to restore Jingqing's reputation. As the Grandmaster, I am willing to hand over our property to you if you promise to protect my family during the transport, even if I die in an attack during this run. Please do your best to protect my brother. Her words made my heart sink. Now I finally understand why Jingqing escort has been struggling just to survive. But this approach is just a waste of time. I shook my head. Grandmaster Song, don't you understand the situation? Those properties you mentioned are secondary. Protecting lives is a losing business. So before we strike a deal, I will first help you become a powerful escort agency once again. Then, you'll be able to pay me a much better rate. Because the better your reputation, the more I stand to gain. With that, I pulled a banknote from my robe. An empty carriage run might only take a few months if things go well. But fully rebuilding Jingqing escort will take years. Fist-based techniques really aren't my style. Now, it's time for the sword. Hearing this, Guo was beyond livid. He lunged again with his claws, but to his surprise, I blurred and appeared right in front of him. Then, I swung the wooden stick upward, with a heavy thud right against his chin. After that, with a flick of my wrist, the stick carved a graceful arc like a blade. I unleashed a dazzling blood butterfly dance. When the final strike landed, Guo was sent flying like a broken kite. He struggled to crawl back up, his eyes filled with terror. As he stared at me, "What sect are you from? Why do you know such a bizarre sword style?" I looked down at him with a cold gaze. "I'm not like you. I don't belong to any organization. I don't know who is backing you, but because of people like you, the woman I'm looking for is still afraid to show her face. This means, to find her, I have to defeat everyone connected to you. So, next time you come for me, send someone better. I don't have time to waste on a low-level lackey like you." Guo was stung by humiliation. It was bad enough being beaten by a nobody, but being looked down on was worse. As I turned away, he scrambled up from the ground. Using the last of his energy, he lunged at my back. But it was as if I had eyes in the back of my head. I whipped the stick behind me, knocking him back down hard. I looked at him and spoke calmly. "People like you, who think the world revolves around them and refuse to admit when someone is stronger, will never amount to anything. Only true masters who accept there is always someone better have the right to talk about winning or losing." Yanjobi stepped forward and suggested I just finish him off, as he's a liability. I immediately replied that if we did that, his accomplices would go into hiding, making it impossible to investigate the conspiracy. Yanjobi then remembered something. He realized Guo wasn't just anyone. He was likely a top claw master from the 2A family in Gansu, ranked among the top 100 in the martial world. I suddenly realized, you're right, the 2A family specializes in claw techniques. There must be a connection between them and the 2A seme. A bit later, I went to a clinic to bandage my wounds. Yanjobi noted that my idea to have refugees join the agency was working well. Now, many people are praising Jingqing escort as its reputation improves. Regarding the fight, though he knew I'd win, the opponent's claw skills were formidable. At first, it actually gave him a bit of a scare. But if I was going to win anyway, why didn't I just use the butterfly shadow sword from the start? It would have saved me some injuries. I thought for a moment before speaking, because I didn't have a weapon that felt right. I couldn't bring out the true power of that style. Think about it. I can beat that guy with my bare hands now, but in the future, I'll likely face much stronger opponents. Without a proper weapon, it'll be hard to deal with them. Suddenly, I stood up. It's time to find a weapon that truly fits me. After that, I visited hundreds of weapon shops and tried over 100 swords, but none felt right. Just as I was about to give up, a humble-looking shop caught my eye. I pushed the door open and immediately felt a different aura. Every weapon here looked exceptional. Then a white-haired old man slowly walked out from the back. He sized me up and said, "Most of these weapons are my work. But young man, you're looking at the ones made by someone else." I quietly apologized. "I'm sorry, sir. I can't explain why, but these just seem much better than the others." The old man wasn't offended at all. Actually, those were made by his son. Only those who can hear a weapon breathe can notice the difference. That's why he was curious about me. Unfortunately, his son had abandoned his hammer and run off in the middle of the night after becoming obsessed with a woman. I asked, "Do you have a flexible sword that can move with the flow of a technique?" The old man turned and carefully pulled a flexible blade from the back drawer. The sword was dark silver, thin, and cool to the touch. He handed it to me and said, "This sword might suit you. It's flexible and changes with your intent. But if you aren't in sync with it, you might end up cutting yourself." I took the blade. As soon as I touched it, a surge of familiarity hit me, as if this sword always belonged to me. I gave it a light flick, and it carved a beautiful arc. With this sword, I could definitely use the full power of my style. Surprisingly, the old man told me to just take it. He hadn't spoken his mind this freely or felt this comfortable in a long time. That conversation was enough for him. I thanked him sincerely. I feel that I'll meet the blacksmith who made this soon, and I'll be sure to repay him. Back at Jingqing Escort, Song Liju decided the time was right for the empty carriage run. But first, she wanted to hear the stories of her two partners. I paused before speaking. I was a servant for a certain family since I was a child, but later, for certain reasons, I had to leave. Someone had helped me before then, but I left before I could repay the kindness. Even though it's been years, I haven't given up on finding them. But I'm sure that with their brilliance, they must be doing well. Song Liju wondered why I was so set on repaying the debt if they were doing fine. Because for the first time, I saw in her eyes a heart that understands the world, no matter the hardship. And the reason I entered the martial world is because there's a man I've always wanted to settle things with. As long as he's watching me, I can't follow my own path. It's better to just duel and settle it once and for all. That's pretty much my story. But please, stop calling me that ridiculous name. Butterfly Youth. If possible, find a weapon that truly fits me. After that, I visited hundreds of weapon shops and tried over 100 swords, but none felt right. Just as I was about to give up, a humble-looking shop caught my eye. I pushed the door open and immediately felt a different aura. Every weapon here looked exceptional. Then a white-haired old man slowly walked out from the back. He sized me up and said, "Most of these weapons are my work. But young man, you're looking at the ones made by someone else." I quietly apologized. "I'm sorry, sir. I can't explain why, but these just seem much better than the others." The old man wasn't offended at all. Actually, those were made by his son. Only those who can hear a weapon breathe can notice the difference. That's why he was curious about me. Unfortunately, his son had abandoned his hammer and run off in the middle of the night after becoming obsessed with a woman. I asked, "Do you have a flexible sword that can move with the flow of a technique?" The old man turned and carefully pulled a flexible blade from the back drawer. The sword was dark silver, thin, and cool to the touch. He handed it to me and said, "This sword might suit you. It's flexible and changes with your intent. But if you aren't in sync with it, you might end up cutting yourself." I took the blade. As soon as I touched it, a surge of familiarity hit me, as if this sword always belonged to me. I gave it a light flick, and it carved a beautiful arc. With this sword, I could definitely use the full power of my style. Surprisingly, the old man told me to just take it. He hadn't spoken his mind this freely or felt this comfortable in a long time. That conversation was enough for him. I thanked him sincerely. I feel that I'll meet the blacksmith who made this soon, and I'll be sure to repay him. Back at Jingqing Escort, Song Liju decided the time was right for the empty carriage run. But first, she wanted to hear the stories of her two partners. I paused before speaking. I was a servant for a certain family since I was a child, but later, for certain reasons, I had to leave. Someone had helped me before then, but I left before I could repay the kindness. Even though it's been years, I haven't given up on finding them. But I'm sure that with their brilliance, they must be doing well. Song Liju wondered why I was so set on repaying the debt if they were doing fine. Because for the first time, I saw in her eyes a heart that understands the world, no matter the hardship. And the reason I entered the martial world is because there's a man I've always wanted to settle things with. As long as he's watching me, I can't follow my own path. It's better to just duel and settle it once and for all. That's pretty much my story. But please, stop calling me that ridiculous name. Butterfly Youth, if possible. So, where exactly did you get these weapons, the blueprints, and the guy who makes the hidden projectiles? I made a promise to his father to help find his missing son. The blacksmith named Zhongli Zaiding. You must have him locked up somewhere, right? Hearing this, the woman's expression turned grim. Both his father and brother died by my hand. So don't even think about getting any intel out of him. With that, she swallowed the poison she had hidden in her mouth. By the time Yanjobi arrived, the woman was already dead. Seeing that I had no intention of explaining, Yanjobi took the opportunity to introduce the identity of the female warrior beside him. She is Su Jiaoying, his fellow disciple. However, she was sent by their master to the Wudong sect for training when she was very young. Since her return, Yanjobi suggested she join the escort mission because her martial arts are quite impressive and she can handle trouble. Song Yuju immediately agreed, saying if Master Yin vouches for her, there is no problem. But before starting the decoy escort mission, there was one issue. Before coming here, Su Yingjiao had been hunted for days by an assassin guild, and she had nearly beaten an expert from the Azure Dragon Agency to death. So there is a concern about whether the enemy would take this chance to seek revenge on the Jincheng escort agency. Since this decoy mission is meant to restore the agency's reputation, there is no need for the chief and her family to be exposed. Besides, Jincheng is currently busy taking care of refugees, which often leaves us short-handed. So, for this decoy run, why don't you just leave it to the three of us? Song Yuju flatly refused. If the chief doesn't go in person, then this mission loses its entire meaning. Furthermore, to her, Yanjobi and I are already considered family. There is no way she would let her family face danger alone. Since Song Yuju is the one in charge of Jincheng, she should be the one standing at the forefront despite the risks. Seeing this, I didn't say anything more. As an escort, I must follow the chief's orders. The current plan is to head toward the Central Plains. Based on my gut feeling, the closer we get to the center, the more likely it is that whoever is framing Jincheng will slip up and leave a trail. As for the deputy chief, Song Lixuan stayed behind to handle the refugee situation. The 5th day of the decoy mission arrived quickly. Su Yingjiao was confused why everything had been so quiet for the past 5 days. Then, she asked if my name was Ziyunyi. She heard from Dao Gui that, aside from eating and sleeping, I spend all my time practicing the sword. I didn't quite understand why she brought this up, but her next reaction shocked me even more. She was actually fixated on my choice of words. I clearly look a lot younger than her, yet when I speak to her, I use casual language. She thinks I should be calling her big sister. I didn't bother engaging with her. I certainly don't have such an annoying sister. Su Yingjiao was immediately annoyed. She suggested that Song Yuju should rank the escorts by age, if left unchecked, because she constantly heard Yanjobi talk about what a wonderful person Song Yuju was. She assumed Yanjobi was trying to use her to express his feelings. Suddenly, the fast-moving carriage came to a halt. Outside, Yanjobi warned everyone to get ready. It seemed the ones trying to stop the escort had appeared. Those 3 people wore eerie smiles. Although the 3 ghosts of Bailing hadn't been active in the martial arts world for a while, being compared to common assassins was actually a bit insulting to them. As they spoke, one of them raised his hand, revealing a withered left palm. Years of dedicated claw technique training had long since stripped that hand of its natural softness. Before anyone could react, he lunged forward like a leopard. Yanjobi immediately blocked with his blade, realizing this old man was no ordinary foe. In the next second, Yanjobi swung with full force. The blade cut through the air with a fierce momentum, aiming for the man's shoulder. The old man didn't panic at all, crouching low, like a hunting cat. Then, his footsteps became ghostly, dodging the path of the blade. Simultaneously, his right hand formed a claw, striking with a piercing wind at Yanjobi's wrist. After a few exchanges, Yanjobi recognized the old man's origins. He must be the Withered Wood Demon, one of the 3 ghosts of Bailing. Even though it had been decades, that nickname still sent chills down people's spines. The demon's expression remained intense. Don't think flattery will save you today. He lunged again with both palms, diving forward with incredible speed. Su Yingjiao hesitated, wondering if she should join the fight. I watched for a moment and decided it wasn't time yet. Unless the other 2 make a move, we should stay back. We still don't know if they are the ones. Behind the frame-up of Jincheng, the Withered Wood Demon suddenly changed his mind. He felt that an expert like Yanjobi was wasting his talent at an escort agency. He suggested joining them to enjoy endless wealth instead. Yanjobi was furious. If he were that greedy, he wouldn't have earned the name Dao Gui years ago. With that, he dropped his wrist and shifted his stance, changing from a vertical slash to a horizontal strike at the demon's face. In that split second, the Withered Wood Demon flipped into the air. But what followed was the sound of tearing flesh. A sword shadow, fast as lightning, slashed right through him. The demon had no time to react. Before his body was cut in 2, the other 2 saw the technique and realized one thing immediately. This was the guy who had brutally taken down Wu Qiliang. They were the smiling mercy monk Yuan Qihu and the red-haired monster of the Crimson Demon Palm. I turned back and said coldly, Yanjobi, make sure the chief is safe. These 2. I'll take care of this old man. With that, the Crimson Demon Palm raised a hand and lunged at me. You're so young and yet so arrogant. You actually think you can take on 2 at once? In the next moment, I pivoted, instantly shifting my body to dodge the palm strike, while keeping a calm and composed expression. Even after the smiling mercy monk joined in, I still appeared completely at ease. Watching from the sidelines, Yinzhoubi didn't know what to say. Because right now, I was using the same Wudong exclusive footwork, the cloud step, that Su Yingjiao had used to escape. I never expected that. Just by glancing at it a few times, I could master the technique. Meanwhile, Su Yingjiao quickly joined the fight as well. Regardless of the situation, she was never the type to enjoy owing anyone favors. The two ghosts of Biling sighed, saying youth was something they missed dearly, but unfortunately, we would soon become their next meal. I chuckled and said, judging by the way you swung your blades just now, the guy whose fingernails I shattered must have told you all about my combat style. Since that is the case, I'll have to show a little more sincerity. To respect you seniors, my footwork became unpredictable, stepping left and twisting right without any pattern. My figure blurred, appearing and disappearing as if merging into the surrounding shadows. The smiling mercy monk's eyes nearly popped out of his head. This is the exclusive footwork of the ghost shadow claw. Where did I learn this? I sneered. The idiot who tried to assassinate me last time used it once. I didn't think it would be so effective against you old ghosts. On the other side, Yinzhoubi was in a heated battle with the crimson-faced ghost. Facing the unstoppable crimson demon palm, Dao Gui didn't hesitate and delivered a brutal slash. As the blade turned, the old ghost felt a sharp pain in his right arm. His crimson demon palm had actually been sliced open by Yinzhoubi's blade. The old ghost immediately stepped back and pressed his hands together in a prayer pose. Let's see if he could handle this next move. After several exchanges, both sides were still at a stalemate, with no clear winner. Su Yingjiao didn't hesitate any longer, her eyes locking onto the crimson-faced ghost's opening. In that instant, she lunged forward with her sword, bringing the sharp blade down and slicing the old ghost in two. The two of them coordinated perfectly. The old ghost didn't have time to dodge and died on the spot. But just then, the smiling mercy monk, who was fighting me, suddenly started laughing. He said he had finally found our opening. Then his figure blurred, rushing straight toward the defenseless Songli Zhu. Yinzhoubi, who was guarding her, couldn't react in time. In that critical moment, the flexible sword in my hand danced again with spiritual energy. I pushed the blood butterfly sword technique to its limit. In a flash, countless crimson butterfly shadows erupted from the blade, filling the dark forest and sweeping forward with a deadly intent. The cold glint of the sword cut through the air, blocking the smiling mercy monk's ambush. He looked back with a grin and said his plan failed. He, the most famous of the three ghosts of Biling, who had dominated the martial arts world for decades, actually fell to kids like us. But even so, he wasn't going to just give up. Before he finished speaking, he suddenly lunged, the massive iron ball in his hand spinning rapidly to block the strikes from my flexible sword. My heart suddenly sank, despite being hit by the blood butterfly dance, he was still vigorous enough to counterattack. It seemed to finish him off. I'd have to find an opening to strike a vital point. The next second, my sword shot out again like a venomous snake. Spiritual sword light surrounded him from all sides, blocking every path of escape. A trace of contempt crossed his face. Did I really think he'd make the same mistake twice? But as he used his iron mace to block one wave of attacks, several crimson butterflies suddenly drifted by, their fluttering wings carrying a chilling sword intent. In the next second, the sword seemed to be possessed by butterflies as its reach extended by several feet. The sky full of sword light and killing intent swept through the entire forest. Then, I pressed my advantage, the sword coming down with devastating force. With a sharp sound, the smiling mercy monk's right arm was sliced clean off. Blood sprayed everywhere as he slumped onto the rocky ground, his face full of bitter regret. He never expected he'd be following withered wood to the underworld so soon. Suddenly, the smiling mercy monk looked up, a frantic light in his eyes. He held the broken handle of his mace toward the sky, and countless spikes erupted from it. Since he was going to hell, he might as well take someone with him. I didn't hesitate for a second and concentrated my energy. Yinzhoubi also unleashed his ultimate technique. Sword shadows intertwined to block the ferocious and deadly blow. Once the dust had settled, Yinzhoubi held his trembling hand. This old guy was just too difficult. He wouldn't give up even at the very end. I stared at the corpse, my brow furrowed. If just sending the three ghosts of Biling took this much effort, I wasn't sure I could survive. If they sent more opponents of this caliber, I needed to get stronger, and I needed to do it fast. Yinzhoubi comforted Songli Zhu, telling her not to worry. They had prepared themselves for injuries when they applied to be escorts. Besides, these three old men were legendary villains in the martial arts world, so it was unlikely the enemy could send out more experts like them so soon. Just as they were catching their breath, the sound of galloping horses approached as a carriage drew near. Song Yuzhu looked toward the sound, and her face instantly lit up with joy. She ran forward, shouting for Uncle Shangwan to see him here. The newcomer was a stern-looking middle-aged man. He was Song Yuzhu's father's sworn brother and the former chief of Jincheng, Shangwan Jinjia. Beside him was a woman with red eyes, Chen Zhuling, the eldest daughter of the Sihai agency. She was also a childhood friend of Song Yuzhu. Sihai, Jincheng, and Jinxing were known as the last three major agencies in Hunan. Currently, Sihai was also struggling to survive, struggling to stay afloat. Shangwan Jinjia looked at Song Yuzhu with regret. Years ago, he had been forced to step down as chief of Jincheng due to some urgent matters, after hearing what happened to the Song family. He has been holding a grudge in his heart all this time. So now he plans to return to the Jincheng agency to see his big brother. But before that, he will accompany the decoy escort until it's finished. However, Song Yuzhu shook her head. Having her uncle along is certainly something to be happy about. But more importantly, Jincheng is currently extremely short-handed. Regardless, she still has three very capable and powerful escorts by her side. Hearing this, Shangwan Jinjia raised his eyes and scanned them briefly. Is that lady, who looks even younger than Yuzhu, also an escort? The other two seem strong enough, but they feel more like wild men than escorts. Seeing Song Yuzhu's firm attitude, Shangwan Jinjia didn't push further. He repeatedly told her to be careful and then led his men back to the Jincheng agency. Meanwhile, in a dark corner, the young master of Sihai agency, Chen Liuza, was being hidden in a deep, dark alleyway by a hooded man. Moments later, in the Xuanwu Hall, Chief Zhou Caiching's face was full of disdain. The chief of Sihai is truly a stubborn old man. He didn't take a good chance to cooperate and forced him to use these underhanded tactics. If it weren't to fully control the escort routes, he wouldn't want to use such dirty tricks. Fortunately, Chu Dahua, the expert from the Gansu Chu family, is quite strong. It's just a shame that Guy belongs to the alliance and can't stay under their command forever. Then, a subordinate reported to rest easy. This time he would use Chen Liuza to renegotiate with Sihai. With his son's life on the line, Sihai won't dare to resist. But remember, don't act like you're just bullying them. Since we're using this method, we need to handle it cleanly. The scene shifts back to the Sihai agency. As soon as our group arrived, we were informed of the news that Chen Liuza had been kidnapped. Song Yuzhu pondered for a moment and said that similar things had indeed happened to Sihai. Jincheng had also experienced cases where goods were stolen or escorts were directly abducted. So this is definitely the work of the same group. Just as she finished speaking, a figure appeared outside saying he had something to report. Chen Xiangquan, the chief of Sihai, was confused because he didn't know the person before him. He must have come regarding his son's disappearance. The man slowly took a sip of tea and said, to be honest, he is actually Mu Danian, a branch manager of Xuanwu Hall. As for why they kidnapped young Master Chen, it was because he beat the hall master's adopted son within an inch of his life. As a subordinate, he didn't know how to appease his master, so he took it upon himself to take young Master Chen. Now he's worried his master might decide to kill him at any moment. So he came specifically to see the chief to resolve this matter. Once and for all, Chen Xiangquan thought this was a ridiculous excuse. Not only did they want his son to suffer in silence, but they also wanted to twist the truth and insult the Chen family right in front of the father. They definitely want to use public opinion to crush Sihai. Realizing this, Chen Xiangquan got straight to the point. As long as he hands over Sihai agency to them, his son's life and reputation would be safe. But no matter what, this is a major matter concerning the family's honor. So he needed at least one day to consider. Mu Danian laughed and said that was fine, but told him not to worry, as Xuanwu Hall would buy Sihai at a fair price. After Mu Danian left, Chen Zhuling asked her father why. He didn't just gather the escorts to find a way to rescue her brother. After all, everyone knows that with her brother's personality, he wouldn't do such a thing. Chen Xiangquan slowly shook his head because that's exactly what Xuanwu Hall wanted. If Sihai made the first move, Liuza's life could no longer be guaranteed. By then, it was likely both would be lost. At that moment, I suddenly suggested they prepare the contract documents first, pick a location, and use the documents to exchange for young Master Chen. Then I asked to go along. Chen Xiangquan was immediately displeased. This is a private matter for Sihai. There's no need to bring an escort from Jincheng. I lightly caught a falling leaf. Don't worry, I don't like meddling, but those guys are connected to the enemy I'm chasing. I'm only going to see them for my own business and to help rescue young Master Chen. Along the way, Chen Zhuling was stunned. On the spot, she couldn't even count how many pieces that leaf had been sliced into. Yan Zhoubi quietly comforted Su Yingjiao. He specifically told her she must quickly adapt to this before using any martial arts in front of me. She should be prepared to have her technique stolen on the spot. Yuzhu spoke up, saying this was indeed the best way, because Jincheng also relied on me to get through its crisis. Time passed, and the next day arrived. The other side was puzzled. Weren't they afraid of something going wrong by only sending 2 escorts? Chen Xiangquan didn't want to say much. You used such complex methods just to expand your power, right? So you should keep your word. Watching Su Yingjiao and my figures disappear, Song Yuzhu still didn't understand why I insisted on bringing Su Yingjiao. Yinzhou. I explained that I probably liked the girl's lightness skill, which was perfect for bringing back young Master Chen, while I definitely wanted to stay nearby to see if I could find their hideout. A moment later, Su Yingjiao successfully brought Chen Liuza back to the Sihai agency. Su Yingjiao's expression turned serious as she told everyone to be on high alert, as someone would likely attack tonight. Because soon, Yi had already killed all the men sent for the trade. Although she didn't know what I was thinking, judging by my actions, I should be looking for the kidnapper's nest. Since the young master is back safely and the 10 warriors they sent have all been killed, they will likely launch a massive counterattack tonight. Meanwhile, in a hidden cave, Chief Zhou Kaiqing was angrily questioning his subordinates. None of the 5 men sent for the trade had returned. Someone responded that signs of a struggle had been confirmed at the meeting place. Zhou Kaiqing realized that agreeing to the exchange was probably just a delaying tactic and the enemy's target was likely their hideout. Thinking of this, he immediately signaled his men to gather. Bring every man from the ambush. At nightfall, we strike the Sea Agency together. But just then, a voice said calmly, "It's too late. I've already found your headquarters." With that, I leaped down and charged straight at them. Zhou Kaiqing immediately raised his blade to block, while signaling his men to proceed with the plan. He stared at me and asked, "What is your goal in coming here?" I didn't stop my movements. As I lunged past his ear, I whispered, coldly, "You've heard the name Yelu Sahan, haven't you?" Zhou Kaiqing's body froze instantly. It wasn't just my shocking words, but the fact that I looked barely 20 years old, yet the skill I was displaying right now was on par with legendary masters who had been famous for decades. Seeing his reaction, I knew that Yelu Sahan was indeed the power behind this place. In a flash, I raised my hand and unleashed my secret technique, the Phantom Overlay Sword. My figure became a blur, weaving through a web of sword strikes, with the faint sound of a blade entering flesh. Zhou Kaiqing's assault came to a dead stop. He froze midair, slowly looking down at the thin trail of blood on his chest. His body went limp, and his long sword hit the ground with a clang. I looked back coldly. "While you still have one breath left, you'd better spill everything you know." Zhou Kaiqing's eyes were filled with horror and regret. He should have gone all out from the very first exchange. Because he relied on a foolish scheme, he paid a heavy price. Even so, he said he would only answer one question. I didn't hesitate. "Have you heard the name Xie Xiuyan?" Watching Zhou Kaiqing slowly shake his head as he faded away, I breathed a sigh of relief. Miss Xiuyan is safely hidden somewhere and hasn't been found. Over at the Sea Agency, the air was thick with sword shadows and a brutal struggle. Even Su Yingjiao was starting to feel the strain. These guys coordinated as perfectly as the Black Sand organization. Yin Zhoubi's current opponent was Chu Dahua, the strongest fighter in the branch. Although he could handle him, he couldn't land a finishing blow. Plus, he had to keep an eye out for his companions. Distracted, Yin Zhoubi soon fell into a disadvantage against Chu Dahua. Chu Dahua chuckled, "There's no need for this futile resistance. Today is the end for the Sea Agency." It was at that moment that I descended gracefully, like a leaf in the wind, with my phantom technique. Su Yingjiao complained that I was taking my sweet time. If I had been a moment later, Sea would have been a field of corpses. This left Chu Dahua wondering why everyone's faces lit up with relief the moment I appeared. Even the worried Yin Zhoubi managed to grin. Chu Dahua could tell that Yin Zhoubi and Su Yingjiao were no ordinary fighters. If such experts reacted this way, could my strength actually surpass theirs? I silently observed the patterns on his forehead and the iron claws on his hands. It reminded me of the 2A family warriors I saw at the Xia household and their dragon claw fist technique. That technique was what placed the 2A family among the top 100 martial arts experts. Their weapons had finally appeared before me. I said coldly, "Your real surname must be 2A, isn't it? And judging by your aura, you are much stronger than the one who used the fan. You should be able to answer my questions. Let's skip this fight where you're destined to be beaten and just tell me everything about the 2A family's 3 beauties." Chu Dahua was unmoved. "Save your breath." He proposed a duel between just the 2 of us. If he lost, he would willingly tell me everything he knew. Yin Zhoubi watched me, lost in thought. Since we met, this was the first time he had seen such a serious expression on my face. Before his words even faded, Chu Dahua lunged like a cannonball, his claws whistling through the air as they aimed for my heart. His heart-crushing palm was a secret 2A family art. Known for piercing armor, many young experts had fallen to those hands. I chuckled, tapped my toes on the ground, and drifted back like willow down, narrowly avoiding the lethal strike. Then, with a slight flick of my right hand, the flexible sword hidden in my sleeve unsheathed. The blade was thin as a cicada's wing, quivering with a cold light. Unlike common sword styles, the blood butterfly sword excels in using softness to overcome strength. Chu Dahua showed a hint of surprise that I dodged his move, but he remained stubborn. These weak, pathetic moves don't even come close to the palm technique of the Chui family, one of the top 100 in the martial world. As he spoke, he thrust both palms toward the shadows. The attacks layered over each other like dark clouds looming overhead. The flying star palm was already known for its speed, but now it was fast as lightning. The palm shadows were airtight, locking down every vital point on my body. Yet I didn't back down. Instead, I moved like a flickering afterimage. The flexible sword in my hand turned into streaks of flowing light. If this is all you've got, you'd better just give up now. Besides, the Chui family is as arrogant as ever, always looking down on people. At that same moment, my wrist flicked, and the sword snapped into a sharp curve. It bypassed his palm wind at an impossible angle, stabbing straight down toward his face. Chu Dahua realized something was wrong and tried to dodge, but it was too late. His legs went weak, and his limp body could no longer support itself. With a heavy thud, he fell to his knees. I let out a dissatisfied scoff. I was just getting started. Are you done already? Weren't you acting all proud of that Chui family palm technique when you were mocking me? Did you ever consider how many thousands of times I swung my sword in the shadows to master these moves? Now that you've been crushed, I hope you keep your word and confess everything you know. It turns out the power behind the Qingxi Hall is the Black Tortoise Hall of the Sichuan Alliance, and the former hall master's name was Yelu Sahan. But beyond that, he knew nothing else about the matters I was investigating. Once I confirmed Chu Dahua wasn't lying, I prepared to let him go, but I told him to give a message to Chui Sanmei, that old man who was sent on a mission and never returned. I will personally come to settle that debt one day. Time flew by, and soon it was. 7 days later at the Sihai Escort Agency's meeting hall, Chen Xiangquan sincerely thanked Song Liju. Thanks to her tireless help lately, the Sihai Escort Agency finally found peace again. He also mentioned the friend she had brought along. Song Liju replied softly. Truth was, she was also deeply grateful to these friends. Because of them, the Jincheng Escort Agency managed to survive the brink of bankruptcy. After some thought, Chen Xiangquan couldn't help but give a warning. Experts with such extraordinary strength must have other motives. Although the Sihai Escort Agency had accepted their help, the martial world is a dangerous place. You can never let your guard down. Song Liju listened and nodded slightly, acknowledging the point. As the head of the Jincheng Escort Agency, she understood how the world worked, but until she was proven wrong, she chose to give her companions 100% trust. Ever since they started the empty carriage mission, she had been saved from countless life-threatening situations. Hearing this, Chen Xiangquan stopped worrying. If that's the case, he could offer some advice regarding the empty carriage mission. Meanwhile, Su Yingjiao was trying to dig into my background. Earlier, Yin Zhoubi had warned him to keep a safe distance from me. He remembered that night during the raid, when I found out. The Chui family was behind Chu Dahua. My expression was enough to send chills down anyone's spine. Afterward, he asked the beggar gang's intelligence department to investigate my martial arts style and sect. But the results showed I was like someone who had appeared out of thin air. At the time, Su Yingjiao didn't get it. If even the beggar gang didn't know anything, didn't that mean I was clean? Then Yin Zhoubi shared some news. A mysterious new sect had suddenly emerged in Gansu. It was called the Flying Sky Dragon Gate, co-founded by the Chui and Xie families of Gansu. As a rising power created by two major clans, the Flying Sky Dragon Gate naturally attracted many formidable martial artists. Since I showed such hostility toward the Gansu Chui family, they had to figure out exactly where my loyalties lied. Right then, facing Su Yingjiao's blunt questions, I decided to tell the whole truth. I grew up as a servant in a wealthy household. Later, for certain reasons, I decided to go into the mountains to study the sword alone. As for my sect's origin, I didn't answer immediately. After all, few would believe that someone could master elite swordplay from a tattered old book. I wondered how Miss Xiuyan would respond. She would definitely say that everyone thinks differently, so you should try to understand the reasons behind their actions. It was only natural for Yin Zhoubi and the others to doubt me, since I hadn't clearly explained my background. Thinking of this, I gave them an answer. There's no formal affiliation or anything like that. I've always preferred the freedom of studying on my own. To gain enough power, I'll do whatever it takes to find the path that suits me. To get stronger, I just have to keep swinging my sword. I also hope to change myself, just like that guy did. Hearing this, Su Yingjiao completely dropped any lingering suspicion. Looking at the sincerity in my expression as I spoke, he felt I was truly just a pure martial artist dedicated to the craft. Deep into the night, by a quiet cliffside, several men from the Flying Sky Dragon Gate were committing brutal acts. Suddenly, a cold voice cut through the air, asking them if they were followers of the Flying Sky Dragon Gate. The man was Xie Xiufan, the long-missing eldest son of the Xie family. The men didn't recognize him, and, relying on the power of their sect, boldly demanded that Xie Xiufan get on his knees and beg for mercy. Instead, they ended up as a pile of corpses scattered along the cliff. Xie Xiufan held his sword to the last man's throat. One last chance. Tell me who your sect leader really is. The man replied, trembling, that he was just a new, outer disciple. In the entire Flying Sky Dragon Gate, only Pavilion Master Xie and Pavilion Master Chui Sanmei were allowed to see the sect leader. Upon arriving at a city inn, Xie Xiufan finally learned the whole story from those three. Not long ago, the Chui and Xie families of Gansu had joined forces to create the Flying Sky Dragon Gate. Since then, they had been recruiting various clans to expand their influence. As direct descendants of the Gansu Xie family, they naturally received a letter urging them to join the Flying Sky Dragon Gate. But, in the end, the Xi family chose to reject the olive branch offered by the Chui family. Since then, they have been subjected to brutal retaliation from the Flying Sky Dragon Gate. Up to this point, only 3 direct descendants of the entire Xi family remain. As the eldest son, Xi Fuxing originally planned to take his sisters and flee to their uncle's house in Xining, Qinghai. However, they were constantly hunted by the Flying Sky Dragon Gate along the way. Hearing this, Xie Xiufan couldn't help but feel confused. The Xie family is one of the 5 major clans in Gansu. In contrast, the Xi family is just an obscure, small family. So what exactly was the purpose of trying to bring such a family into the Flying Sky Dragon Gate? Suddenly, a faint sound interrupted his thoughts. Xie Xiufan realized those guys must have followed them to the inn. Therefore, he told the Xi family members to finish their meal and act natural as they left the inn. The scene shifts back to the outskirts of town. Over a dozen martial artists dressed as assassins had already completely surrounded the area. The leader frowned. I assume you're the one who killed our brothers? After getting a confirming look, he decisively revealed his cold, gleaming claws. In that case, anyone who interferes with Flying Sky Dragon business must pay a heavy price. On the other side, Xie Xiufan was now seething with rage. He immediately recognized the unique palm technique of the Chui family. So, the Chui family of Gansu is actually involved in this hunt?